All right. Okay, so I didn't like the way that first video looked at all. It looked way too grainy. So I'm going to actually try to do this. I just did a video where I said don't bother doing 1080, and now I'm going to try to do 1080. I just think there's some details that I don't want to miss for everybody here. Uh, so here we have myself on the big screen. Let's talk about Scoreboard. Um, this is one of those things that gets a little bit tricky. Like this is kind of like the first step into needing to know a few things about stuff that you don't normally use. Or maybe you do, but I didn't normally use the scoreboard ever before doing this. Um, I have downloaded the newest version of the Carolina Roller Girls software, so most people know it as the CRG scoreboard. It's pretty ubiquitous. It's almost everyone has CRG running their scoreboards at their venues, which is great because the CRG scoreboard actually comes with a graphical overlay that you're very familiar with. Um, it's actually there's a proprietary overlay for the WFTDA championships, but they're using CRG as well. Um, and all the Nerd Derby broadcasts, I've always used CRG scoreboard except for one, maybe a couple of times where they didn't have a scoreboard, so I had to kind of make my own thing on screen. There's a couple of versions of the scoreboard out there. You're going to find that most people have, and you can look at your scoreboard the next time you guys drag your laptop out. People either have the older version, which is 3.23, I think, or they have the newest version. Let's take a look, actually. So I'm running a copy of the scoreboard software on my computer right now, and does it give me? I'm sorry, it's 3.2. Yeah, 3.2 something. 3.9 is the newest version, right? Right. Let's try. So let's go to the control panel here. So I'm not going to walk you through how to install the CRG software. I think you could probably get it. I might be able to put a link to it here once I've got this all streamed. Well, no, I'll tell you how to get CRG, so you can play with it at home, just in case you don't have access to the same laptop that you use for your team. Um, I'll put a link in the description, but there's actually so this has been kind of confusing. So most people have an older version of the software, even though a newer version has been available for a little while. Um, the newest version of the software is really only available if you go through, I believe it's the actual CRG Facebook page. Um, and that's where you can go and you can get that. I can probably tell you quick enough. Let's go. Let's just do scoreboard. Derby scoreboard. There it is. There's a group right here. Derby scoreboard. I've joined it. So if you go to the Derby scoreboard page, there's John Fox. He's the admin. Look at that. Pinned to the top of the Derby scoreboard page on Facebook is the CRG 3.9 stable version. That's the one that really everybody should be using. Um, but I will tell you, there's some things that we're going to have to work around as broadcasters for a little bit. And that is what we'll probably get to next. So, like I said, I have the scoreboard running right now. If you've never seen the CRG scoreboard, this is how you actually open it via a. I'll show you what it looks like where it lives. Right. So you would have something similar like this on your computer after you downloaded it and open it up. You'll have the CRG 3.9 current. And you go in here and you have Scoreboard Windows. That's the Java application that will start it. And then you have the start button or the start icon, which will open up this page here. Generally, most everybody goes to the main operator control panel, but what we're going to be doing is actually over here on overlays. So you click on the overlays and you've got all kinds of different options for different overlays that are already built into the CRG software. I was amazed when I found this. I didn't know this was even a thing. Um, So we have this. This is one of the newer overlays, I think, the interactive one. It doesn't really show anything there, I think, until something else happens, so we won't look at that one. We're going to look at the most basic one. This is the WFTDA styled overlay. Takes a little bit to pop in. So we have Team 1, and then we have this. It looks like a strange name over here because I was playing around with things earlier. So this overlay page comes up like it's just in a browser tab. Obviously, you'll notice the bright green. That's super important because we're going to use or not use, as the case may be, that bright green color. Something I have noticed, and I kind of just learned a little bit more about it right now, which is exciting. With the CRG scoreboard, the newest version, some overlays, you'll see how, like if you look over here, for some reason, it's cutting off down here. Like I made the team name too long. Over here, it seems to fit okay. All of this information, which is really the most valuable information, score and time and jam, that all has been working correctly, but that has not been the case with, for instance, let's take a look at, this is the one that I use for Nerd Derby. This is just a recolored version of the files. So it's all of the same files. I just changed the hue to be this Nerd Derby turquoise. You see this number 2 peeking out over here. That's kind of a thing with the most recent build of the CRG scoreboard. The older 3.2, I think it is, that one doesn't do that. When they put a team name in, they show up on top over here where they're supposed to. For some reason, they're not in this one. I'm not sure why. It might be possible to play around with a different overlay, and maybe they line up a little bit better. So you could use that one if you wanted to for your scoreboard. That's totally fine. Um, you can play around with these, like see which one you want to have, and they're all varying degrees of working, I think. So for me, I kind of like this one, right? It's got my logo on it, and I colored it, and it looks nice. And I just needed to be able to get my stuff on here, though, and we'll talk about what I did to put team names on here a little bit later. I intentionally made this team name longer so that it would poke out the end so you could see the number 2. Generally, that's not a issue unless your team is from Saskatchewan and then it pokes out the end because it's so long. All right, so um, let's go back over to OBS, right? And here we have just my mug. So we need to add the scoreboard to OBS now. This is not too tricky, although it's one of the biggest things I stress about every time I broadcast. Okay, so we're going to add we're gonna go into our camera 1, and we have this video capture device. That's the camera, right? If we had 2 cameras, we would have camera 2, and we would add another video capture device. So we're gonna add a window capture. Okay, so we're gonna create a new window capture, and we're gonna use this one. It's actually, so what it's doing is it's showing you all the different windows I have open, and we want to capture the Firefox one with the CRG overlay. Okay, so great. So we have this now instead of my face, because this is covering my face. If I make it disappear, then you can see me. So we got to make this work somehow. So a couple of things are going to happen. One, I think I'm a little bit surprised we're not seeing. Hold on a second here. Okay. So I want to make sure that you guys can see on the stream what I'm actually looking at. Properties. Okay. So I'm gonna have to transform this because I think it's too big. So we're gonna go fit to screen. And then by doing fit to screen, it fits inside of the our area, which is good because otherwise it actually would be a really big logo, and we don't want that to be not logo, but it would be a huge bar in the bottom. We don't necessarily want that right now. Okay, so we're in OBS right now, and we've got all this garbage up here. So the first thing we're going to do is on our window capture, going to right click and we're going to add a filter. Okay, the filter that we're going to add is Chroma Key. I believe it's Chroma Key. It might be Color Key actually. Let's just try Color Key. Yeah, Color Key. So we're going to add Color Key. It defaults to green. Lo and behold, the CRG developers, when they put this together, they use the correct shade of green. You'll see there's a little bit, though, I don't know if this shows up or not on the stream, but there's a little bit of green around the edge of the graphic still. So the way to do this is we're actually going to increase the similarity just a little bit, I believe is what we do. Yeah. So by increasing similarity, it's gonna make it a little bit tighter. So there's our overlay graphic now. You'll notice we still have all this garbage at the top. We don't want that. That's trash. Okay, so I'm gonna have to unlock my preview. You remember in the last video, I would lock the preview so I don't mess things up. Well, that's the same thing, except right now I actually need to mess with the preview. So I'm gonna hold down my Alt key, and you should be able to see these little red handles up here. So I'm gonna hold down that handle, and I'm gonna drag, maybe. Let me make sure that's actually still gonna work. It's not. I love when a thing is supposed to do a thing, and then all of a sudden it doesn't. Let me just, no. Awesome. I'm pretty sure it's Alt, and it's not letting me. So that works. I could do that. So that was not the appropriate way to do that, but it worked. So I just have stretched my window a little bit so that it's bigger. And then that leaves my scoreboard down on the bottom. That's not really how that's supposed to be done. So I don't necessarily want to do it that way. If we were doing a one camera shoot, that would probably be fine. I'm going to go, let's make that number 2 go away because that looks dorky. All right, I'm going to go over to, I lost the scoreboard. All right, so I'm going to have to go in to, this is where you change those, by the way. So if we go over to Teams, and we have Team 2, alternate names, just take that out of there. And Team 1, alternate names, overlay. I did that just so I could make a mess of things. Okay, so we'll just go back home. Let's go back over to our overlays, and we want this one because that's the one that has my logos on it. Okay, and we'll go back into OBS. And there's those 2s are gone. All right, so this isn't terrible. You can see how the scoreboard gets up there. Now, because it's a web server, there's a few things you're going to have to kind of know about this. How do we even get there, right? So let's take a few steps back. So I showed you how to get it there. And that's kind of like, for most leagues, you're going to probably run one camera. If you get to this point, we'll talk a little bit more about this a little bit later on. I don't know why my scale, I wanted to be able to not have that entire screen. I don't know why it didn't work for me. So let's go back over to the scoreboard because there's some things we need to talk about there. All right, so what happens when I get to a new venue? Let's say I'm going down to talk to my friends at Mass Attack, and I've never streamed for them before. I'm gonna go talk to whoever's running the scoreboard, and I'm gonna say, hey, can I put some files in there? And I put my colored files that we just looked at. I put them on their laptop. The other thing I do is I go to look to see on their computer. I want to know this information right here. That's the address of the scoreboard laptop. So the scorekeeper laptop, that's their address. Now this is all assuming that there is a network that that laptop can connect to. This is all very dependent on being able to connect to the laptop over a network. Sometimes what I do, I have an old router that I bring, and I just don't hook anything. The router doesn't go to the internet, but it does connect to allow a network to be had. So, for instance, that's what I used to do in Bangor. I would go to Bangor Roller Derby, and they would connect to my router, and then I would be able to access their computer from my computer. So all I have to do is I have to just copy this address here. If I were to go into a browser, paste and go, 192.168.1.210, and then 8,000. 8,000 is that's the port number that the server is running. So maybe you know that with the CRG software, it actually is running a web server at the same time. So I need that address. And then once I have that address, I can go in then and I can come here and I can access the scoreboard overlays, and then I will just click on this one, and that's where my files are. So let's go to the main operator control panel. So we'll actually start it so that there are actually numbers going down. Operator is going to be this guy. All right, so let's see, reset time, and start it. Okay. By the way, I have no idea how any of this works. I don't. So don't ask me to do any scorekeeping at your games, because I can't do it. We need to have our overlay back. Okay. So here we have the overlay that we installed, and we started our clock, which stopped probably because I closed the page down. No, it didn't actually. So this might be a thing that you might need to know too. Yeah, it is a thing you need to know. All right, so let me see if I can show you exactly what's happening here. So this window, the one that's moving back and forth, that window is, hold on. So I lost everything. Okay, so if this window gets minimized, then OBS won't get an update, right? So in every game, I need to leave this window up. So if I minimize it, the clock will be stopped at like 58:14, when we go over here, there it is, 5814, that's where the clock stopped. So what I always have to do is make sure that I leave that window up in the background. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but for the most part, I usually use 2 monitors, so I try to do that. Okay, and so now I'll highlight that, and you should be able to see now the scoreboard's ticking down, and I could go in and change the scores if I wanted to as well. So ultimately, the big thing, so we'll go back through, just kind of revisit all the things I threw out at you. This is really kind of a quick and dirty explanation as to how this works. So let's go back to, we'll run through all those steps again. Okay. So we're going to remove, so I've removed the scoreboard. So here we're back where we left the last video off. We'll do it again real quick. I'm going to add a window capture. Okay. New window capture. In this case, we're actually going to want, I actually want not that silly thing. I want that. So properties, I'm going to add a window capture. I want the CRG scoreboard. So I've selected of all the different things that were open. I want the scoreboard overlay. So that gets it, and we can see that it's actually too big to fit on the screen, which is totally fine. We only want the bottom anyway. So I'm going to just sort of set it where I want it. Okay. I could probably center it if I go right click, transform, and then one of these is going to be center to screen, and then I can just go up. Put it there. We'll put it there for right now. All right, so it's green when I can't see my face anymore. So remember how we do that? We go to right click. Actually, what are we doing here? Video window capture. Wow, I'm really helpful. Window capture. We're going to add a filter, and we're going to add a color key. And we're going to add green will be the default. Okay, so we're going to add green, and we're going to turn up the similarity by quite a bit so that we really just see my graphic. And then there we have it. We have the scoreboard down on the bottom with all the numbers and stuff. But we don't have team names, right? That looks crappy. And this is the 3.9 version, which is generally what we want everybody to be using. So let's fix that right now. So to fix that, we're going to go add text. Okay, this is what I did down at Battle of the All-Stars. Doesn't matter what font you use. We'll use Impact. And we're going to use 48, I think. Team 1. And then I'm going to hit space a bunch of times. Team 2. Or team @ symbol. Okay, let's just try that and see how that looks. When we drag that down, they need to be stretched out a little bit more. So right click, properties, space them out a little bit. How'd that work? That'll give us some better space. Okay, so we're going to make it look a little bit prettier. We're going to add an outline, and we're going to select a color, black, a little sharper looking. Click OK. All right, so team 1, team 2. So there we have that. So that's what I did at Battle of the All-Stars for the 3.9 version of the CRG software, that had weird things going on with the team names. I actually kind of like the way that looks better. Um, to me, it just seemed, I don't know, just visually was a little bit more appealing. So I was kind of happy that it worked out that way. Okay, so what am I gonna do now with this? I'm gonna lock it. So we're gonna lock the preview. So I can't click on anything here and change anything midstream, which sometimes happens. If I had another camera, let's say I had camera 2, I'm gonna add it. I'm gonna add camera 2. So it's black. So we have nothing here. So let's rename that camera 2. All right, camera 2. So we're gonna add a video capture device. Okay. We're gonna do LifeCam Studio. Probably can't add that one because it's already being used. So we're gonna just pretend this is camera 2. We're gonna properties. We're gonna make that a little bit bigger. So resolution, custom resolution. Let's make that 1920 by 1080. Ooh, that was way too big. Properties, 1280 by 720. Hey, look, it fits. All right, so now if we have this second camera. So now we have camera 1, which has a frozen picture of my face because I was playing around with the cameras. So that's expected. That would happen that way. The most important thing is I've got Team 1 and Team 2, and we have our scoreboard overlay, but then we have this other camera that's not doing anything yet. So the way we change that, or the way we work with that is, so I know text is my team names. I'm going to copy filters. Okay. I'm going to go down to camera 2, and I'm going to do copy. Actually, I did that wrong. So let's go back here. Text. I just want to copy it. Silly me. So we're going to copy. Go to camera 2, right click, paste a reference, not a duplicate. We'll paste a reference. And we'll go up here to camera 1 again. And we know that the window capture is going to be our overlay. So we're going to copy that. Go to camera 2. And we're going to paste a reference. Now you'll see that the overlay and the team names, see how text is below window capture? If I just slide that up, there we go. So it's like layers in Photoshop if you've ever used that. One layer has to be in front of the other. Whatever you see on the top is going to be on the top. Now, the reason why we did a paste reference is that if you have multiple games, like for the tournament that we did, multiple games means every game you've got to change a team. So I would then only have to go in and change team 1. So I'm on camera 1. I'm going to rename that. I'm sorry, not rename it. Properties. I must be getting tired. So we're going to change that. It's actually not team 1. This time around, it's actually team 4 that's playing against team 2. So I changed it. Now I have team 4 here. And if I go to camera 2, because I paste a reference to that first item, it now is referencing that and it's been changed. So I'm seeing team 4 on camera 2. So now I can go change action. I can go from camera 1 to camera 2. And there we have that. So we have updated scoreboard on each one of those. And what's also important about the scoreboard is, although the photo, like the camera changes in the background, for the most part, your scoreboard overlay is actually not changing its positioning. There's a little weird artifact in there, but I think that's something that's a problem here on my screen. Otherwise, what happens is, and this used to happen to me because I didn't have this option in the older version of OBS, I would go to change cameras and I would have to reinstall and like try to get the scoreboard to be in the same position because it's really wonky if the scoreboard were moved. if it wasn't exactly in the same spot, even if it was like I thought it was really close, you can see how the scoreboard moves a little bit. So we don't want that. So that's why we paste a reference for the scoreboard. So now I've moved it and it's all out of whack. So I'm going to actually remove that. And then I'm going to copy it again. So I'm going to go window capture. I'm going to copy filters. Actually, I shouldn't have to. I should just be able to copy. And camera 2, and then paste a reference. And then we're going to move our text back up over. So there we have it. Okay. So that's how I get the scoreboard overlay onto a stream. Clear as mud, right? If you have any questions on that, please reach out. And you know, there's always going to be differences in how people do things. If you have the older version of the software, if your league still uses 3.2, which is totally fine, you actually won't have to do this. This business of putting team names on the overlay, you won't have to do that because it's not broken in the older version. I believe there's a fix being worked on. It's been fixed by at least one person on their own version of the program. So we'll probably see a fix at some point. But for now, you can use OBS to actually kind of make that look a little bit better than the standard just plain old black font that would be down there. You can kind of make it pop just a little bit. I like it. So that's video 2. We're gonna stop there. So video 1 basically gets you set up with OBS and how to add a camera. And video 2, it's gonna get your scoreboard up. And if you have the new version, it's gonna show you how to get the team names on there as well. And then you should be able to stream already. I think we talked about that in the first video. I hope we did. Yeah, we did. It was only like 20 minutes ago. All right, so that's it. I'm going to be all done with this video now, and I might do a new production in a few days with another topic. I know some people want to run the instant replay. I can show you how that works. I can try to show you how that works. It was a huge pain, and I kind of did it last minute in the last video. So, all right, I will stop gabbing, and we'll end this video, and I'll go do something else. Thank you very much for watching this video. You know, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. More importantly, if you have any questions, or you think I did a terrible job, just let me know, and I'll try to update that and make corrections or answer any of your questions that you might have. All right, thanks so much.